Okay, so welcome to session 2. This is a supplementary part. If you watched the first video, you saw how to analyze an image stack. And one thing with these image stacks is when you have a large number of files you want to pull in and analyze, if you're doing a simple analysis with only a few hundred files, sometimes you want to have a more real-time feedback. So I'm going to quickly show you one way of gaining this real-time feedback, and I'll run it through now. So we just need to open this VI. Let's find it first. Okay, so if you've watched the first one, this should look very similar. The two panes, the file path. We have a difference in our buttons. Instead of just a run button, we now have something which tells us that this image path is what we want, and an ROI, saying that this region that we currently want to look at, that's fine, and we've finished with our analysis. This is kind of a stop button, for want of a better word. So we can just run this now. So we run this, and then we can choose our file. We'll use the same image set as previously. I'll choose a different image. Okay, and nothing will happen right now. It's in a waiting loop until we say the image path is okay. This allows you to run the VI and then keep changing your mind about the file until you're certain without causing any errors. Okay, so we've chosen this image path, and instantly you'll see, one, it's black and white, and two, that this image preload progress bar is running along. This is loading all of the images in that folder into the memory, which is why this is here, to make sure that this is the file path that we want, because it's going to read all of those images into our memory. And the reason why this is black and white is just because technically the analysis is based on intensity values, which can't be done from a color map. So you always have to go back to grayscale. So this is more of a view of the intensity mapping. So we have this little region, and we haven't hit OK, and we already have this readout. Now the difference between this one and the previous stack analyzer is if I now grab this, I can move it around, and more or less in real time, their data from the real-time analysis shows up. So, and I can do the same thing with changing the size, and then I can move this around again. What it's doing is it's doing everything that the first image stack analysis program was doing, but instead of opening all the files just for the analysis, it reads them all into the memory, which is what this preload was. So then it can very quickly access all of the images. So as I move this, and I'll show you in the back end, it runs the little light bulb ROI intensity analysis VI about 350 times for every run of this cycle, and this is running 20 frames per second. So every 20 frames, so in 1/20th of a second, it reads through 350 files and then figures out what this mean intensity value is. So it's running quite fast. And then once you're set, let's pick this little guy here. Once we've chosen the bit that we actually really are interested in, we can, okay, this is the interesting part that we want. We wanted to see this result. Then we hit ROI OK, and it finishes the program. Let's take a quick look at the back end. Show a block diagram. And again, for what it does, it looks very simple. There's a different order happening here than was happening in the other one. The other one was very linear. This actually runs 2 streams simultaneously, and so that we can preload the images while we're drawing the region of interest and having a look at the image. It's just a better use of the user's time. So again, we have our image path, but this time we've put it in a delay loop, so a while loop, and we're waiting there until we click that this file path is okay. Like I said, initially the reason for this is that we're going to preload all the images into memory, so we need to make absolutely sure that this is the right file path. We have space in the memory for putting the image that we chose, so we know how to draw this region. And just like previously, we have this VI which tells us what's in the folder. Different to what happened previously is that we now have our while loop away from our image analysis loop. So what it's doing is it's reading this list of files into here, and we're then making space in the memory for these files. So this is take the file, put it into the image, and just like in the previous for loop, we're making a big array of all these data. So we have an indexed item here. So it's just making a big list of where all these images are. How we make sure they're all in different ones is simply done in a for loop by we put the name of the space in the memory equal to the index number, so that we know that none of these images are ever going to be overwritten, because this number is always unique for each loop iteration. And we have a similar progress bar as previously, just using the index number to tell us how preloaded our images are. Okay, then once we have them all in the memory, we can then read this region of interest, which we made over here. So at any point during this section, while you're drawing the region of interest, it will be changing essentially what's inside this value. And then once we hit stop, this loop finishes and it's finished. The region of interest, like in the previous example, this is all similar material. So we have changing the rectangle, changing which changes the region at which we look at with the light bulb, and then it reads out this image stack, which is being represented as a graph. And we have a little timer delay here so that it doesn't try to run too fast. We could probably run this a little bit faster, but it's analyzing a large data set. So we've got 350 images that it has to read a small subset of the image and then figure out the intensity, which itself is a very simple task, fractions of millisecond time, but due to the fact we have hundreds of them, it's advantageous to put a time delay so that it doesn't try to run too fast and possibly get an error. So that's what we have, just quickly breaking it down. Input file path, figure out what all of the files in that folder are, load all those files to the memory, those that get read into a while loop, so this constantly runs 20 times a second, reads the region of interest that you're moving around, then draws a box. This analyzes that region of interest, displays it on a graph. Okay, thank you for watching. We might get to this section if there is enough interest. This might be a section that's for viewing only online. Thank you.